You think you'd survive a day in ancient Rome? Think again. You imagine marble columns, epic togas, gladiators, and maybe a fresh loaf of bread with wine at sunset. But you wouldn't last a single morning, not even until noon, because the moment your eyes opened, you'd already regret waking up. There's no mattress, no pillow, no cozy blanket, just a straw mat crawling with bugs, laid over a hard, uneven stone floor. You're crammed in a tiny one-room insula, a building so unstable it's more likely to collapse than to keep the rain out. There's no glass in your window. There is no window, just an opening in the wall that lets in every smell, every scream, every disease Rome has to offer. And it starts early. Before you can even stand up straight, the streets are already screaming. Vendors yelling about fish so rotten even the cats avoid it. Drunken neighbors slurring through arguments they started last night and never finished. Somewhere below you, a man is throwing up wine and bile into a corner, right next to a child peeing in the street. That smell you're breathing? It's a mix of spoiled garum, unwashed bodies, and public waste. Your lungs are already working overtime and the sun hasn't risen yet. You want water? You better pray, because you're not turning on a faucet. You're walking to a shared well, hoping someone hasn't already soiled it with blood, garbage, or a dead rat. And if you think you'll get there clean, think again. The stairs in your building are steep, broken, slippery, and made for goats. And if your neighbor above decides to dump a pot of waste from the window, you're not dodging it. You're wearing it. Your stomach rumbles, but there's no breakfast. Unless you're one of the lucky ones who stashed some moldy bread under the cot. Most mornings, you chew on yesterday's crust, now rock hard and laced with ash from the fire that barely kept you warm last night. No butter, no jam, no coffee. You start the day on an empty stomach, a sore back, and the very real possibility of a parasite already growing in your intestines. If you think you'll freshen up before facing the world, welcome to the Roman version of hygiene. There's no bathroom in your home. That's not how this city works. You either hold it or head to the communal latrine, a public bench with holes carved over a flowing stream of other people's waste. There's no privacy, no toilet paper, just a shared sponge on a stick dipped in vinegar, reused dozens of times a day. The same hands that wipe might also be the ones baking your bread later. And if you want to wash your face, congratulations. You're going to the public baths, if you can afford them. Inside, it's humid, noisy, and packed. You're naked with 100 other people who haven't discovered soap. You're not just bathing. You're stepping into a cesspool of fungus, skin infections, lice, and rumors. Because the baths aren't just about cleaning, they're about gossip, business, politics. And if someone doesn't like your face or your accent, you might leave with more bruises than dirt. But you survive it. You dry off with a rag that smells like mildew. You throw on your tunic, the same one you wore yesterday and the week before, and you head out. Maybe to find work, maybe just to avoid being home. The streets are already a mess. Literally. Trash, blood, human waste, animal carcasses. All of it mixes in the gutters that line every road. There's no sewer system beneath your feet. The cloaca exists, sure, but it overflows, frequently. Which means most of the time, you're walking through a shallow river of filth, hoping you don't cut your foot on a broken amphora or slip into something unmentionable. You hold your breath, but it doesn't help. The air is heavy with rot and smoke. Incense burns in temples nearby, but it's no match for the stench of 1,000 bodies, hundreds of fires, and dozens of animals crammed into carts. Everything is loud, everything is chaos, and yet everyone around you acts like this is normal. Because for them it is. This is daily life, this is survival. And here's the thing, you're not even sick yet. Give it a few hours. One scratch, one infected cut, one accidental sip from the wrong water jug, and you're done. No antibiotics, no doctor. The man who says he can heal you also believes fevers come from bad air and that balance can be restored by draining your blood. Good luck. You think you're still doing fine? Maybe, but you haven't eaten. You haven't rested. You haven't had a moment of peace, and the day is just beginning. The chaos doesn't pause for your exhaustion. Because in Rome, weakness isn't just ignored, it's exploited. You stumble into the street, disoriented, but others are already 2 steps ahead, pushing past you for a scrap of bread or a lucky spot to sell whatever junk they've salvaged from yesterday's waste. A moment of distraction, and you're bumped, shoved, maybe even robbed. No one stops. No one helps. You're not in a community. You're in a city-sized competition for survival. You glance at the sky, maybe hoping for some peace, but even that's a disappointment. The smog from open fires clings to the skyline, turning noon into a hazy blur. You're sweating, and it's not just from the heat. It's from stress, from hunger, from the fear that today might be the day you drink something wrong, touch someone with the plague, or get dragged into a street brawl you didn't ask for. And as you push forward, trying to make sense of your direction, the ground beneath your feet begins to betray you. Potholes, mud, piles of unidentifiable sludge that suck at your sandals with every step. It's not uncommon for people to lose shoes this way, or toes, because the mixture of filth and sharp debris isn't just disgusting, it's dangerous. One wrong move and you've got a gash, and in ancient Rome, that's a sentence, not a scratch. You hear a scream nearby, maybe a theft, maybe a punishment, maybe someone just died. You don't look, you don't want to know. Everyone minds their own misery, and everyone's used to the sound of suffering. It's not shocking here, it's rhythm. By mid-morning, you're lightheaded. The hunger's stronger now, gnawing at your ribs. If you're lucky, you can barter for a turnip or some old olives. But most likely, you'll end up begging outside a bakery, inhaling the smell of warm loaves you'll never taste. Or worse, you'll watch a dog chew through a fresher meal than you'll get today. Because in this city, the animals often eat better than the poor. And just when you think the streets can't throw anything else at you, you pass by the amphitheater. The crowd is gathering, not for music, not for sports, but for blood. Today's entertainment is watching someone die. Maybe a criminal, maybe a prisoner, maybe someone falsely accused. The specifics don't matter, just the show. People cheer, children laugh, vendors walk through the aisles selling snacks. And you realize this isn't just accepted, it's celebrated. Now imagine this isn't the worst day. This is just another day, a normal one. And if your body doesn't break first, your spirit might. Because in Rome, survival isn't just physical, it's mental warfare. Every hour you stay alive, you trade a little more of your innocence, your comfort, your humanity, until eventually you forget what life ever felt like outside the noise, the filth, the hunger, and the fear. That's what it means to be ordinary in ancient Rome. And you haven't even seen what happens when night falls. After enduring the sensory assault of your morning, you desperately crave some measure of relief, something, anything, that could restore even a shred of dignity and comfort. But in Rome, comfort is as fleeting as fresh air, and dignity is rarely part of daily life. If you think your morning was harsh, the experience awaiting you at the public baths will redefine discomfort in ways you've never imagined. The baths, Rome's most iconic symbol of cleanliness and leisure, are in reality far from luxurious for the ordinary citizen. You quickly realize these are not the gleaming marble-clad halls reserved for senators and wealthy merchants. The public baths you're forced to use are dimly lit, overcrowded, and grimy beyond description. Yet, this is the only place available for even a superficial attempt at personal hygiene, making it as unavoidable as the air you breathe. The entrance alone is intimidating, a narrow archway filled with a dense throng of people pushing, shoving, and cursing their way inside. Your heart sinks as you join the chaotic queue, shoulders pressed uncomfortably against sweaty strangers. The stone beneath your feet is slick, worn smooth from countless footsteps. You catch glimpses of expressions around you, reflecting exhaustion, irritation, and resigned acceptance, a communal surrender to the inevitability of discomfort. Once inside, the oppressive heat hits you immediately, steam and humidity wrapping around your skin like a damp, suffocating blanket. There's no escape. Every breath feels heavier than the last, the air thickened by moisture, sweat, and body odor. You glance around cautiously, wary of what you might encounter next, knowing instinctively that cleanliness here is only an illusion. The main bathing pool stretches before you, murky water glistening under flickering torchlight. You hesitate, noticing instantly that the water isn't clean. It's cloudy, tinged with a suspicious hue, and littered with floating debris. Bits of hair, skin, and other indistinguishable remnants drift casually along the surface. Your stomach churns, apprehension rising sharply as you watch bathers climb in and out, oblivious or indifferent to the conditions around them. The Romans, famously hygienic in theory, are far less meticulous in practice, especially here among the masses. Reluctantly, you prepare to enter, slipping off your coarse tunic and stepping barefoot onto wet, slippery tiles. Immediately, your skin crawls. The tiles beneath your feet are coated in a slimy film, breeding ground for fungus, bacteria, and diseases you'd rather not think about. Foot infections and parasites thrive here, passing easily from one patron to another. Still, avoiding the baths entirely would risk even worse outcomes: social isolation, ridicule, accusations of being dirty or uncivilized. This twisted paradox forces you forward, deeper into the steaming chaos. Around you, patrons chatter loudly, voices echoing off stone walls, amplified into an unintelligible roar. Gossip flows freely here, spreading swiftly through Rome's vast network of rumor and scandal. You overhear snippets of conversations about betrayals, political intrigue, and illicit affairs spoken openly without shame or discretion. The baths are Rome's social epicenter, a place where information and misinformation spreads faster than the diseases lurking invisibly in the water. As you cautiously lower yourself into the bath, your fears become reality. The water feels tepid, stale, and slightly greasy against your skin, an unsettling reminder of countless unwashed bodies before yours. You fight the urge to leap out, steeling yourself against revulsion. Nearby, a bather scrubs vigorously at an angry rash, unconcerned that flakes of his infected skin float toward you, merging invisibly into the shared water. You cringe inwardly, praying silently that whatever he suffers from won't soon afflict you. The air is ripe with the sickly sweet scent of cheap oils, perfumes poorly masking body odor. Patrons rub these concoctions over their skin, desperate to hide the stench of filth rather than remove it. You recognize these scents from street vendors who promise miracle cures for lice, boils, and rashes. Few of these treatments work. Most only add another layer of discomfort, irritating sensitive skin already raw from exposure and neglect. Looking toward the corner, you notice barbers and surgeons offering their dubious services. You watch, horrified yet fascinated, as a surgeon performs crude operations right in public view, extracting rotten teeth with rusty tools or applying leeches to cure mysterious ailments. Patients endure this agony openly, their cries mixing with laughter and casual conversations. Hygiene standards for medical procedures are non-existent. Blood, saliva, and bodily fluids blend openly with bathing water, unnoticed or simply ignored by those around you. You quickly scrub yourself, desperate to escape this place, but fully aware your efforts achieve little real cleansing. The gritty pumice provided is rough, abrasive, leaving your skin raw and tender without truly removing the layers of accumulated grime. There's no soap to be found, only stale oil, worn-out cloths, and the rough stones used repeatedly by countless patrons before you. You're not clean. You're merely coated with a fresh layer of sweat, grime, and anxiety. As you finally step out of the pool, eager to dry off, you're reminded once more of Rome's harsh realities. Towels are rarely washed, reused day after day by dozens of patrons. You grab a ragged cloth, damp and sour-smelling, wiping your skin reluctantly as you dream of genuine cleanliness, a distant, almost mythical luxury. The baths, intended as places of refreshment and renewal, leave you feeling dirtier, more vulnerable, more exposed. Yet, despite all this, something compels Romans to return daily. Perhaps it's the social expectations, or simply the illusion of normalcy in a city dominated by filth and chaos. Whatever it is, you understand clearly that your survival in Rome depends on enduring these humiliations repeatedly, day after grueling day. Stepping out onto the street, your body still damp, your mind troubled, you're painfully aware that Rome's brutality doesn't end at the baths. It's everywhere, in the streets, the homes, the arenas. And though your ordeal at the baths has ended for now, the challenges and indignities waiting just beyond its doors are even harsher. Stepping out from the baths, your skin still damp and your nerves frayed from the uncomfortable ordeal you've just endured, you immediately realize your misery is far from over. The street before you, a bustling artery in the heart of Rome, is more a river of filth than an actual thoroughfare. It's a scene that would horrify anyone used to the relative comforts of modern life. You hesitate, your sandal hovering uncertainly over the uneven stones slick with waste, unsure where to safely place your foot next. There's no elegant architecture here, no neatly paved roads. Instead, you face an endless expanse of crowded, chaotic streets layered thickly with human waste, discarded animal bones, rotten produce, and garbage piled so high it seems to block out the daylight. It's a grim reminder of the stark divide between the luxurious Rome depicted in marble reliefs and statues and the brutal reality confronting everyday citizens like yourself. As you carefully navigate forward, your senses are violently overwhelmed. The smell of the street is beyond foul, an indescribable mixture of sewage, decaying flesh, and fermenting trash left to bake in the hot Mediterranean sun. Rats scurry openly, fearless creatures emboldened by the easy access to food and filth. They dart between piles of refuse, their beady eyes fixed greedily on scraps of meat and rotting fruit. These rats aren't small, shy creatures hiding in shadows. They're bold and aggressive, unafraid of humans who share their territory. You watch helplessly as a street vendor shoos rats away from his cart, only to see them return moments later, gnawing openly at bread loaves intended for sale. Customers pretend not to notice, or perhaps genuinely don't care, too accustomed to Rome's daily horrors to worry about such trivialities. A hunger drives tolerance, and here, survival outweighs any squeamishness. As you continue, carefully sidestepping waste and debris, you notice children playing freely amid the filth. Barefoot, dressed in filthy rags, they chase each other, seemingly indifferent to the dirt, disease, and danger surrounding them. These children, some barely old enough to walk, know nothing different. For them, the street is playground, home, and school all at once, a brutal initiation into a world that demands resilience above all else. You remember vividly stories whispered among neighbors, stories of diseases born directly from these very streets. Dysentery, cholera, typhoid, names that spread terror through crowded tenements like wildfire. You've seen firsthand how quickly a healthy person can decline after exposure to Rome's unsanitary conditions, transforming from robust to skeletal in mere days. Physicians are little help, often prescribing remedies worse than the illnesses themselves. Leeches, toxic herbal concoctions, or painful bloodletting that weakens patients further rather than heals. As your thoughts drift toward these grim realities, your foot suddenly slips. You gasp, your balance dangerously compromised by the slick surface beneath your sandals. Frantically, you grasp at a nearby wall for support, only to find the stones themselves coated with grime. Your hand recoils instinctively, but not before your fingers are smeared with a sticky, unidentifiable substance. Revulsion rises sharply in your throat. There's no clean water nearby, no cloth to wipe it off. Only your already soiled clothing, which you reluctantly use, further embedding the dirt into fabric already saturated with filth. Nearby, shouting abruptly grabs your attention. A dispute has erupted between two street merchants. The quarrel rapidly escalates from heated words into threats of violence, their voices cutting sharply through the general din. You watch warily, heart pounding in anticipation. Violence in Rome erupts easily, fueled by exhaustion, frustration, and constant struggle. You've seen arguments turn deadly within moments, blood-staining streets already thick with grime. But today, mercifully, the shouting subsides into angry muttering, both men too exhausted perhaps to follow through on their threats. Your eyes shift uneasily toward the infamous Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer system, celebrated in histories but largely ineffective for the average citizen. Intended to carry waste away from populated areas, it instead regularly overflows, spilling raw sewage openly into streets already awash with refuse. Rainstorms bring even greater misery, flooding roads ankle-deep or higher in filth-laden waters, contaminating homes, spoiling food, and spreading disease with ruthless efficiency. There's no escape when the cloaca betrays its purpose, only grim resignation. You marvel bitterly at the irony. Rome, a city praised for engineering marvels, fails utterly to protect ordinary citizens from daily suffering. The grand aqueducts, magnificent in their towering glory, channel fresh water primarily to the villas of wealthy patricians, leaving citizens like you to scavenge at overcrowded, polluted fountains. Roads carefully paved with stone and celebrated for military efficiency become death traps in densely populated urban quarters, slick with waste, riddled with potholes, breeding grounds for pestilence and despair. Yet, despite the horror unfolding around you, life continues with relentless normalcy. Merchants still hawk wares energetically, neighbors gossip freely, and children laugh obliviously in play. The filth, disease, and danger are merely background noise to a city numbed by daily exposure. You realize with bleak resignation that you, too, have begun to accept these conditions as inevitable, your initial revulsion slowly replaced by weary acceptance. Rome demands this compromise, demands you surrender comfort, dignity, and sometimes sanity, merely to survive another day. But survival here is fragile. A single cut, an accidental swallow of contaminated water, a careless stumble into the street's refuse, any small misfortune can quickly escalate into tragedy. There's no medical safety net, no protective infrastructure for those who dwell among the refuse and decay. Life expectancy here isn't measured in years, but in days, weeks, if you're lucky. Your longevity depends solely on vigilance, resilience, and sheer luck. As you finally reach a clearer patch of road, momentarily free from immediate threats, relief floods through your weary body. Yet, your momentary reprieve is quickly overshadowed by dread, because in Rome, relief never lasts. Every step forward leads inevitably toward the next brutal challenge. You're painfully aware that just ahead lies even darker territory, places where survival depends not merely on endurance, but cunning, aggression, and the ruthless instinct to fight for scraps of dignity in a merciless city. You brace yourself mentally, preparing for the next ordeal. Because in Rome, the horrors you've faced thus far are mere introductions to the true cruelty lurking in shadows and alleyways yet unexplored. Moving deeper into the city's heart, hunger begins to gnaw at your stomach with an intensity you can no longer ignore. You've managed to evade the filth-covered streets, surviving the bath's humiliation, yet Rome still holds another cruel irony, an ironic twist that turns pleasure into torture. Here, the legendary Roman ideal of bread and circuses becomes vividly real, though in ways you never anticipated. You quickly discover that Rome's promise of free bread isn't the generous welfare of legend. It's a brutal exercise in daily desperation. Every morning, large crowds gather near designated points, small stalls or corners by temples, where distributions of grain or bread take place. But this is no organized charity. It's chaos incarnate. Citizens cluster aggressively, pushing and shoving, screaming and fighting, their eyes glazed with hunger and panic. Your stomach growls painfully as you approach the scene, your hope dimming with each step closer to the madness. The bread, when you finally glimpse it, is far from enticing. Loaves are hard as stones, often filled with grit and sand, poor quality flour mixed carelessly, baked hastily by bakers more concerned with quantity than edibility. Yet, people scramble wildly to claim their share, desperation overriding common sense. You watch helplessly as a frail elderly woman is shoved violently aside by a stronger, younger man, her pitiful cries ignored. Another man snatches bread from a child's hands without remorse, his eyes cold with survival instinct. In Rome, hunger does more than starve the body. It starves the soul, stripping away dignity and compassion, reducing humanity to its most primal instincts. This is the harsh reality hidden behind the poetic phrase, bread and circuses. A reality that mocks you openly as you stand empty-handed, your hunger deepening into painful nausea. Still, there is the circus, the entertainment Rome promises as distraction. The city boasts grand arenas, including the mighty Colosseum itself, structures that dominate both skyline and imagination. From a distance, they're monuments to Roman power and glory. Up close, however, their brutal truth is revealed in chilling clarity. You find yourself drawn inevitably toward these arenas, perhaps by curiosity, perhaps by the unconscious desire to distract yourself from the misery around you. Crowds swell massively as you approach, tens of thousands surging forward like a relentless tide, desperate to witness spectacles that promise both thrill and terror. You're swept up by the human current, carried toward gates manned by intimidating soldiers, their cold eyes scanning the mob, their spears and swords ready to enforce brutal order. Inside the arena, your senses reel. The atmosphere crackles with tension, anticipation thick enough to taste. Beneath the vibrant spectacle, a sinister reality lurks. The knowledge that you're here not merely for entertainment, but to watch men and animals die. Roman circuses are built upon death, upon violent, bloody struggles disguised as sport. You realize this instantly as the gates to the central arena open, revealing gladiators stepping forward, their faces stoic, resigned, haunted by shadows of mortality. The crowd erupts in deafening roars, cheers of excitement mixing with calls for blood, demands for death. Men, women, children, all shout fervently, their thirst for violence shocking you profoundly. You watch, transfixed, as gladiators clash brutally, blades slicing flesh, shields shattering under brutal blows. Blood sprays vividly against pale sand, staining it dark crimson. Every wound, every strike, every scream reverberates painfully in your chest, forcing you to confront the disturbing truth of Roman entertainment. Glancing around, you see spectators utterly enthralled, their faces twisted with perverse delight, pleasure at the suffering unfolding below. Vendors move swiftly through the stands, selling snacks and drinks, casually profiting from bloodshed. You feel sickened, yet compelled, unable to turn away, horrified, yet captivated, your humanity at war within you. The gladiators fight fiercely, not simply for honor, but survival. Victory promises temporary glory. Defeat, almost certain death. Those wounded beyond hope collapse helplessly onto sand already soaked red, their lives ending as entertainment. The crowd roars approval, raising fists triumphantly, encouraging more violence, more death. Your heart pounds painfully, empathy battling fascination, shame dueling curiosity within your troubled mind. Animals enter next, lions, bears, starved into ferocity, forced brutally into confrontation. Their roars echo hauntingly throughout the arena, primal, terrified. Gladiators, or condemned criminals, face these creatures armed with minimal weapons, their fear palpable, visible even from your distant vantage. You hold your breath involuntarily as a lion leaps ferociously, claws extended, teeth bared, a gladiator desperately defending himself beneath its savage attack. The crowd screams louder, excitement frenzied, oblivious or indifferent to human or animal agony. Yet beneath this horror lies another, subtler cruelty, the cynical exploitation of human pain by Rome's rulers, deliberately engineered to distract from poverty, injustice, and suffering. The spectacle is intentional, calculated, designed precisely to occupy restless minds, preventing citizens from contemplating their own hardships, from questioning authority or demanding better lives. The circuses exist not merely for pleasure, but control, brutal mechanisms ensuring Rome's poor remain submissive, docile, obedient. As realization dawns, your initial revulsion shifts into anger, resentment growing fiercely within your heart. Rome has weaponized entertainment, weaponized bread, weaponized survival itself, twisting human necessities into tools of oppression and distraction. You're caught within a web intricately woven by rulers who care nothing for your welfare, your dignity, or your humanity. Outside the arena, reality swiftly returns, harsh and unforgiving. Crowds disperse, murmuring contentedly about violent spectacles they've witnessed, temporarily sated, yet no less impoverished, no less hungry, no less desperate. Rome offers distraction, but never relief, entertainment, but never comfort. The city's cruelty isn't accidental, it's intentional, systematic, relentless. Yet within your anger lies a spark, an awakening recognition that Rome's grand spectacle hides vulnerabilities, weaknesses perhaps exploitable by citizens willing to resist, to question, to demand more than mere survival. Beneath your exhaustion, hunger, and suffering flickers something new, defiance, however faint, the first stirrings of courage amidst despair. As your feet carry you forward once more, leaving the arena's grim shadow behind, you sense Rome's harsh reality shifting subtly around you. Survival here demands adaptation, not merely endurance, but cunning, strength, rebellion against passivity. The spectacle you've witnessed isn't merely entertainment. It's a wake-up call, a challenge, an invitation to question your own place within Rome's cruel hierarchy. With this newfound awareness, your heart beats faster, not with fear, but anticipation. Rome's cruelty may be endless, its oppression relentless, but perhaps your own story here is not yet fully written. Perhaps there's still hope amidst brutality, strength amidst despair, opportunity amidst chaos, and perhaps, just perhaps, you hold within yourself the potential to fight, to resist, to reclaim dignity in a city designed solely to strip it away. As you move away from the blood-stained sands of Rome's arena, your mind churns with thoughts about power, who holds it, who desires it, and who suffers beneath it. Politics in Rome, you soon realize, is not a civilized exchange of ideas, nor a dignified debate about policy. Here, politics is a dangerous game played with daggers hidden behind friendly smiles, whispered betrayals behind hearty laughter, and brutal ambition behind polished speeches. On every corner you see it. Men huddled in tight clusters, their voices lowered to conspiratorial whispers. Their eyes scan the street nervously, wary of spies, informants, and rivals who lurk in every shadow. The air itself feels thick with suspicion, tension crackling invisibly between each furtive glance. In Rome, power is currency, and it's earned by betrayal, violence, and cunning. You overhear fragments of conversation, snippets loaded with hidden meaning, promises of loyalty, threats veiled thinly beneath polite requests, names spoken with cautious reverence or deliberate scorn. Even in the market, ordinary citizens mimic the backstabbing tactics of Rome's elite. Merchants sabotage each other, spreading vicious rumors to destroy rivals' reputations, manipulating prices to drive competitors into ruin. It's as if the ruthless politics at the empire's highest levels seep downward, infecting every interaction, every relationship. You recall vividly the stories whispered late at night around dimly lit tavern tables, tales of senators assassinated by trusted allies, poisoned cups presented by smiling servants, powerful men reduced to begging for their lives beneath the cold blade of betrayal. Julius Caesar himself, Rome's greatest general, was famously slain by men he considered brothers, his blood staining Senate steps, a stark reminder that no one, however mighty, remains safe from treachery. Every Roman knows that political life isn't merely dangerous, it's deadly. A single misplaced word can end your career or your life in an instant. A careless comment overheard by spies, an innocent joke interpreted as criticism, an accidental slight misunderstood as deliberate insult. These are all sufficient reasons for swift retribution. Paranoia becomes a survival mechanism, suspicion second nature. Citizens learn quickly to mask their true feelings beneath carefully crafted facades, hiding authentic emotions behind practiced smiles and false sincerity. You consider briefly your own precarious place in this intricate web. As a common citizen, your life remains largely invisible to powerful players in Rome's political games. Yet this invisibility offers little protection. You remain vulnerable, easily manipulated pawns, sacrificed without remorse by those hungry for influence. Powerful patricians frequently orchestrate street violence deliberately, igniting chaos among ordinary citizens simply to undermine political rivals, discredit enemies, or distract public attention from scandals threatening their own positions. You witness firsthand how politics spills violently onto Rome's streets. On one afternoon, you watch helplessly as an angry mob, clearly incited by unseen political agitators, attacks a respected merchant, accusing him falsely of hoarding grain to manipulate prices. They drag him through filthy gutters, beat him savagely, ignoring his pleas of innocence. You understand instinctively that the true reason behind his suffering isn't economic, it's political. He's merely collateral damage, a convenient scapegoat sacrificed to serve hidden agendas. Rumors circulate constantly about prominent families locked in fierce rivalry. Battles fought not openly on fields of war, but secretly in shadowed alleys, private rooms, and whispered conversations. The Iuli, Claudia, Corneli, names heavy with power, legacy, and ruthless ambition, maneuver endlessly, alliances shifting swiftly, loyalty fleeting. You hear of marriages arranged solely to solidify political advantage, sons and daughters traded like commodities to seal temporary truces. Families fracture bitterly when ambition overrides familial bonds. Siblings betraying siblings, children turning against parents, loyalty discarded swiftly when convenience demands. Rome's political machine doesn't pause even for death. Funerals of prominent citizens become theater, spectacles carefully orchestrated for maximum political gain. You watch processions through crowded streets, mourners wailing dramatically, tearing clothes theatrically in grief that feels rehearsed rather than genuine. Speakers deliver emotional eulogies filled with carefully chosen words, subtly attacking rivals or promoting heirs. Even mourning itself is weaponized. Another cynical tool employed by ambitious Romans to manipulate emotions, control narratives, and consolidate power. You become increasingly aware that power in Rome is a carefully maintained illusion built on deception, threats, and manipulation. It's a fragile balance maintained not through genuine strength, but fear. Senators and consuls project confidence outwardly, while privately fearing assassins' blades or rivals' schemes. Ordinary citizens feign loyalty publicly, inwardly resenting leaders who exploit, oppress, and manipulate them without mercy. Trust is impossible. Fear is universal. Yet within this oppressive climate of suspicion and betrayal lies an unexpected opportunity. Observing carefully, you notice cracks forming subtly within Rome's political structures. The relentless pressure of ambition, the constant threat of violence, the endless cycle of betrayal, these create vulnerabilities exploitable by those clever enough, courageous enough, desperate enough to seize them. Power built solely on fear remains inherently unstable, vulnerable to collapse when courage overcomes intimidation, truth overcomes lies, and solidarity emerges from shared suffering. You sense deeply that Rome's political brutality isn't inevitable, it's a choice perpetuated deliberately by those who benefit most from chaos. Yet beneath this brutality lies potential, opportunities for change, resistance, and reform. The system seems unbreakable, but history proves repeatedly that even Rome's mightiest tyrants eventually fall, their reigns ending abruptly beneath ordinary citizens' collective resistance. As you navigate cautiously through Rome's shadowy political landscape, you feel within yourself a growing resolve, a quiet determination fueled by outrage, awareness, and courage. Rome's ruthless power games rely heavily on citizens' passivity, obedience, and silence. Perhaps you realize suddenly the greatest threat to Rome's oppressive regime isn't merely rival elites, but ordinary citizens who refuse quietly to accept brutality, manipulation, and fear as normal. You leave the marketplace behind, heart beating faster, senses sharpened by newfound awareness. Rome's brutal politics have revealed a deeper truth about power, survival, and resistance. Your future remains uncertain, your challenges daunting, your risks enormous, but your resolve is clearer than ever. You've glimpsed briefly behind Rome's carefully constructed illusions, recognizing clearly that beneath its powerful facade lies vulnerability, beneath fear lies possibility, beneath obedience lies rebellion. With each step forward, your confidence grows stronger, fueled by determination to transform mere survival into meaningful action. Politics in Rome may be brutal, deadly, treacherous, but perhaps through courage, awareness, and solidarity, you can reclaim dignity, justice, and power long denied ordinary citizens like yourself. Your story here isn't finished, it's just begun, ready now for the challenge ahead. Having navigated Rome's treacherous politics and ruthless daily struggles, you find yourself facing an even more personal, intimate threat: your own health. In ancient Rome, medical care is not a comforting reassurance or a beacon of hope. Instead, it's often a terrifying gamble that can easily make your condition far worse than the initial ailment. The reality of medicine here is grim, risky, and at times downright horrifying. As you move through the crowded city, you see countless people visibly suffering, their faces drawn pale with illness or twisted with pain. Disease is an everyday reality, and prevention is practically non-existent. Malaria, typhoid, tuberculosis all ravage neighborhoods mercilessly, claiming victims indiscriminately. And though Romans take pride in their bathhouses, aqueducts, and public sanitation projects, for ordinary citizens like yourself, these measures rarely offer genuine protection. When illness strikes, and inevitably it will, the remedies at your disposal are frighteningly primitive. Physicians of Rome often rely heavily on superstition, outdated theories, and treatments that cause more harm than good. Galen, Rome's famed medical authority, promotes the theory of balancing bodily humors: blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. Any sickness is explained away as an imbalance of these fluids, and correcting that imbalance usually involves painful and sometimes dangerous methods. You vividly recall witnessing a physician treating your neighbor, a woman suffering from a persistent fever. Instead of rest, fluids, or gentle care, the physician insisted on aggressive bloodletting. You watched helplessly as he pressed a sharpened blade against her pale arm, slicing deeply without hesitation, blood flowing into a bowl beneath her trembling hand. Her skin paled even further, her breathing weakened rapidly. She died within days, her condition worsened irreparably by a misguided attempt at cure. Such stories aren't isolated incidents, they're commonplace. Bloodletting, performed using crude tools like bronze knives or even leeches, is frequently recommended for everything from headaches to serious infections. Physicians believe fervently in these methods despite countless failures, driven by dogmatic adherence rather than evidence. For ordinary citizens, questioning a physician's methods feels impossible. Authority is absolute, skepticism dangerous. Beyond bloodletting, other treatments recommended by Roman healers seem even more terrifying. Remedies frequently include bizarre and often disgusting ingredients. Physicians prescribe concoctions made from animal dung, human urine, crushed insects, or rotten meat, claiming magical properties. You recall vividly hearing a healer advise a man suffering from eye irritation to apply crushed fly paste directly into his eyes, a horrifying thought made even more shocking by the patient's desperate willingness to comply. Surgery in Rome, when necessary, is carried out without proper anesthesia or sterilization. Infection rates are horrifically high, mortality frequent, pain unbearable. You've witnessed street surgeries, crude amputations performed swiftly, the patient's screams muffled inadequately by rough cloth clenched between teeth. The surgeon, hands unwashed, operates openly, spectators gathering casually to watch the bloody spectacle unfold. Hygiene isn't merely ignored, it's actively dismissed, with surgeons openly ridiculing cleanliness as unnecessary. Yet, despite knowing these risks, desperation often overrides caution. When disease strikes your household, options are limited. Turning to religious rituals becomes a common recourse. Temples dedicated to healing deities like Asclepius flourish, filled daily with desperate Romans pleading fervently for divine intervention. You see offerings piled high, small tokens left in hopes of miraculous recovery, coins, miniature clay limbs representing injured body parts, candles lit in anxious prayer. Yet often, prayers go unanswered, hope fading swiftly beneath relentless illness. You're also painfully aware that prevention in Rome is practically non-existent. Public sanitation, though praised publicly, remains woefully inadequate. Latrines overflow, public fountains breed contamination, food markets sell spoiled produce openly. People consume tainted meat, drink polluted water, share dirty utensils casually. Hygiene standards, despite Rome's famed baths, remain shockingly poor, baths themselves spreading disease rapidly through filthy water, shared by countless patrons. Lice, fleas, and parasites thrive openly, passing infections swiftly through overcrowded neighborhoods. Infant mortality rates are particularly heartbreaking. Children succumb swiftly to illnesses modern medicine would easily manage: measles, whooping cough, minor infections spiraling quickly into fatal conditions. Mothers grieve frequently, death commonplace within family units. Each birth becomes an anxious gamble, joy tempered heavily by realistic fears of imminent loss. Even among healthier adults, simple accidents can prove swiftly fatal. A minor wound, left untreated, quickly festers into lethal infection. You recall watching helplessly as a young laborer injured while hauling stones developed redness around a shallow cut. Within days, fever gripped him violently, infection spreading swiftly through his veins. No antibiotics existed, no effective intervention available. He died, agonizingly and unnecessarily, another victim of Rome's brutal indifference to common citizens' health. Mental health receives even less attention or compassion. Conditions like depression or anxiety, though common, are dismissed cruelly as weakness, personal failures, deserving mockery rather than support. Those displaying severe mental illness are shunned openly, forced into isolation, or cast into streets to survive alone. There's no recognition, no sympathy, only ridicule, punishment, neglect. Still, despite the horrors of Roman medicine, you witness genuine compassion among ordinary citizens. Neighbors care for neighbors when physicians fail. Families gather tightly, supporting each other through illness, loss, grief. Herbal remedies passed through generations offer some small relief. Mint teas easing nausea, chamomile calming nerves. Though limited, these humble traditions represent small acts of defiance, citizens quietly resisting Rome's callous neglect, reclaiming dignity in modest, meaningful ways. Amidst your reflections, you realize deeply that survival in Rome isn't merely physical, it's emotional, psychological, communal. Health here isn't guaranteed by skilled physicians or advanced medicine, but rather sustained through quiet resilience, shared compassion, collective strength. The cruelty you've witnessed isn't inevitable. It's deliberately maintained by those benefiting from citizens' helplessness, vulnerability, despair. Yet, within your heart stirs quiet defiance, a determination not merely to survive, but to resist. Health in Rome may be fragile, medical treatment terrifyingly inadequate, but perhaps within community lies hope, within resilience lies strength, within compassion lies genuine healing. You sense clearly your own resolve strengthening, your courage building. Rome's cruelty has revealed deeper truths about humanity, solidarity, resistance. You step forward once more, a heart stronger, resolve clearer. Rome's harsh medical realities have challenged your spirit profoundly, but not broken it. You recognize clearly now your own strength, potential, courage, ready to face whatever challenges still lie ahead, whatever brutality Rome continues to throw your way. Your journey isn't finished, far from it. Ahead lie even greater struggles, deeper revelations, profound opportunities for meaningful resistance, genuine transformation. Having survived Rome's relentless cruelty thus far, you faced hunger, political treachery, filth-filled streets, hazardous medicine, and soul-crushing realities. Yet Rome saves perhaps its cruelest joke for last: the bitter irony of life expectancy. For ordinary citizens like yourself, longevity isn't measured in decades, but in mere years, often brutally short ones. The simple truth is that making it to age 30 in ancient Rome isn't merely challenging, it's almost miraculous. You witness this grim reality every day. Walk through any neighborhood, and you'll see countless examples of lives cut tragically short. Children who never make it past infancy, their tiny bodies fragile, vulnerable to diseases you can't name but fear deeply. Young men and women in their prime, taken swiftly by infections from minor wounds or sudden epidemics. Even those few who manage to survive childhood and youth rarely escape their 30s. Age 50 feels impossibly distant, a myth whispered among elders whose survival seems more luck than anything else. As you navigate the crowded streets, you reflect on how quickly death can strike here. One wrong step on uneven cobblestones and a twisted ankle might mean lifelong disability, unable to work, begging on street corners, slowly starving. A seemingly minor cut, sustained during daily chores, can rapidly fester into a lethal infection. unchecked by Rome's primitive medical practices. Fever, untreated, burns fiercely through your body, swiftly ending lives before physicians even begin their harmful remedies. Accidents in daily labor claim lives constantly. Construction workers crushed beneath heavy stones, their cries silenced abruptly beneath rubble. Bakers overcome by fumes in poorly ventilated ovens, collapsing silently without warning. Merchants assaulted violently by thieves, murdered for small handfuls of copper coins. Ordinary life teeters constantly on a knife's edge, each day offering fresh opportunities for tragedy, injury, death. War, too, steals countless lives prematurely. Rome's mighty legions, famous for bravery and discipline, rely heavily on ordinary citizens, drafted hastily into battles far from home. You recall vividly watching young men march reluctantly toward uncertain fates, faces pale, eyes haunted. Few return. Those who do are often broken physically, mentally scarred forever by horrific violence witnessed and inflicted. War spares neither soldier nor family. Mothers grieve openly for sons they'll never see again. Widows mourn husbands lost brutally on distant battlefields. Even peace brings little comfort. Rome's crowded urban centers breed violence daily. Disputes among neighbors escalate swiftly into fatal encounters. Arguments over trivial debts or perceived insults turn suddenly deadly, knives flashing in dark alleyways, victims falling silently beneath swift, ruthless blades. Public executions occur frequently, serving simultaneously as punishment, warning, entertainment. Life holds little value here. It's disposable, expendable, forgotten swiftly once extinguished. Yet, despite constant threat of sudden death, Romans rarely dwell openly on mortality. Life's brevity fosters an urgent, almost reckless desire for pleasure, distraction, entertainment. Taverns overflow nightly with citizens drinking heavily, gambling recklessly, desperate to escape oppressive realities through temporary oblivion. Spectacles and arenas provide brief respite, citizens cheering wildly for gladiators battling violently, desperate to feel alive through witnessing death. Excess becomes survival, indulgence replacing reflection, desperation fueling reckless abandon. In your quieter moments, though, mortality's grim reality feels inescapable. Friends vanish suddenly, their deaths announced casually in whispered conversations between neighbors. Family members sicken swiftly, gone before farewells properly exchanged. Each funeral procession, mourners wailing dramatically through crowded streets, serves as harsh reminder of life's fragility, mortality's inevitability. Romans bury their dead openly along busy roads, stone monuments marking lives lost prematurely. Constant, unavoidable reminders of death's relentless presence. Aging itself feels painfully accelerated. By your mid-20s, your body already aches deeply from relentless physical labor, malnutrition, untreated injuries. Teeth decay rapidly, skin ages prematurely beneath harsh sun, muscles weaken steadily from inadequate nutrition. You notice gray hairs appearing early, joints stiffening painfully, vision blurring slightly. Your reflection reveals a face prematurely aged, eyes weary, spirit battered relentlessly by Rome's unforgiving cruelty. 30 feels impossibly distant, 50 laughably unattainable. Yet beneath despair lies quiet resilience. Romans, intimately familiar with mortality, learn quickly to cherish fleeting pleasures deeply. Simple joys, a shared meal among friends, laughter with family, tender moments of intimacy, hold profound value precisely because they're brief, uncertain. Relationships deepen swiftly, connections forming urgently in recognition of life's fragile brevity. Survival becomes communal, individuals relying openly on networks of friends, neighbors, family for emotional support, practical assistance, quiet solidarity. You witness countless examples of quiet heroism among ordinary Romans facing mortality courageously. Parents sacrifice daily for children's fleeting happiness. Neighbors support grieving families unconditionally. Friendships form powerfully amid shared suffering. Ordinary citizens, ignored by Rome's elite, form tight-knit communities offering genuine comfort, sincere compassion, profound humanity amidst relentless brutality. As you reflect deeply, you recognize clearly that Rome's cruelty, though relentless, reveals profound truths about life's genuine value. Mortality isn't merely tragedy. It offers powerful lessons about compassion, resilience, solidarity. Rome's harsh realities strip life down brutally, revealing clearly what genuinely matters: relationships, kindness, empathy shared openly among fellow sufferers. Life here, though brief, becomes profoundly meaningful through genuine connection, sincere compassion, authentic community. Suddenly, beneath your exhaustion and despair, you feel newfound strength growing quietly. Rome's mortality rate remains brutally high, life's brevity starkly undeniable, but within limited years lie profound opportunities for meaningful connection, authentic joy, sincere compassion shared openly among fellow citizens. Mortality becomes teacher rather than threat, urgency fueling powerful connections formed courageously despite Rome's oppressive conditions. You step forward confidently now, awareness deepening profoundly. Rome's mortality may shorten lives brutally, yet it deepens life's genuine value immeasurably. Within limited years lie powerful opportunities for authentic relationships, sincere compassion, genuine resilience. You sense clearly that life's briefness isn't mere tragedy. It offers profound invitation to live courageously, compassionately, meaningfully. Rome's harshness has stripped illusions brutally, revealing clearly life's genuine treasures: friendship, compassion, resilience. Mortality no longer terrifies. It motivates deeply, urging meaningful living urgently. You move forward confidently now, heart strengthened profoundly by Rome's brutal lessons, spirit invigorated powerfully by newfound clarity, awareness, resolve. Rome's mortality rates remain brutally high, but life's genuine value feels immeasurably deeper, profoundly richer, authentically meaningful. You sense clearly your own story here isn't merely tragic. It's deeply profound, genuinely meaningful, courageously hopeful. Rome's brutality has revealed powerful truths about humanity, resilience, compassion. Mortality becomes motivation, brevity inspiring urgency, life's fragility deepening appreciation profoundly. Your journey forward feels uncertain yet hopeful, challenging yet inspiring, difficult yet deeply meaningful. Rome's cruelty may shorten your years, but your awareness, resolve, compassion feel immeasurably strengthened, profoundly deepened, genuinely enriched. Your story isn't finished. It's courageously, compassionately, profoundly just beginning.